right now, Schefter?
Well, Kevin, it was another did not practice today. And if you've got a couple of do not practices back to back and the game is Saturday night as it is, that is not an encouraging sign for his availability for that game. Right now, it looks like there's a real possibility the Ravens will be without Zay Flowers for the playoff matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, also some questions about Kyle Hamilton, who was full practice today after limited with the knee. The full practice tells you that Kyle Hamilton should be good to go, while there are questions about Zay Flowers. And Kyle Hamilton, the quarterback of that defense, playmaker back there, that's an encouraging sign for his availability for Saturday night's game.
Schefter, I know today was a very tough day for your family. We want to send our heartfelt thoughts with you. I know your beloved Betty, the best boy. Thank you for joining us here. And we really appreciate it. Thank you, Schefter.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, this lost one of his dogs, and they are family members. We all have experienced that. If you're a dog owner, you know what that is like as a family. Let's get back to the Steelers and their second half schedule. We know it was brutal, and it showed. Russell Wilson has lost his last 4 starts, tied for the second longest streak in his career after starting the season 6-1. He's averaged close to 3 fewer yards per attempt in his last 4 games. QBRs dropped by 22, so some concerns heading into this. A lot of concerns, J-Mac. The keys for this offense to turn things around, because it's one and done if they don't fix it.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin brought me in and allowed me to go meet with Arthur Smith, my guy who I was in Tennessee with. I give him 3 keys to the game.
Right,
I said, go ahead and give me the headset. Let me help you out on Sunday and find a way to get the ball out to these guys. So I think it comes to first. Play action pass on first down. Allow Russ to be able to get the ball in chunks down the middle of the field and make plays and trust that they can do that. I think the second part of it is he's going to have to use his legs. The games and the different things the Ravens are doing up front, Russ may not be the one of all, but he can still make plays on the perimeter. I'm not saying hold the ball the entire time, but when he has to and he has to take off, for one, you got to protect the ball. This was a huge play in that last game, and they're getting ready to go into the end zone if he doesn't fumble. But he's going to have to use his legs. The last part is once a quarter, take a shot. You have to throw the ball down the field. In their last game, they didn't do that, and they struggled. They had 1 drive in that game. And now for this one, you're going against this Ravens team and this secondary on the outside. Challenge those corners and make them have to respect you, loosen up that defense, and then be able to run the ball.
Challenge one corner.
Yes.
You go at 21.
The rookie's been really good.
Wiggins has been great.
Nate Wiggins has been great. Brandon Stevens is who you want to try to throw the ball on and be able to make those plays down the field. Pickens has to catch the ball as well.
Yes. I agree. I'd go after Stevens. If they get into third down, they're dead.
Yes.
If they get into third and obvious against this defense under Zach Orr that's exactly figured out how to kind of live in that Mike McDonald, their old defensive coordinator world, they're dead. 4 down linemen, but you really have Van Noy as the stand-up. Yes. Roquan's there. Roquan doesn't pressure guys, so you can't pay attention to him. They're going to drop him out. The problem is you now create the one-on-ones. And so they'll take Matabike and Kyle Van Noy and run those pick game stunts, and you still have 7 guys in coverage. So I'm just wasting your offensive lineman. Russ has got nowhere to go, even though it's 3rd and 5. This time they got 7 up in the line of scrimmage, and they're always living in a 6-man protection in Pittsburgh. You're down 1. So if you take your center, right guard, and tackle to the right, left guard and left tackle to the left, well, guess what? Your back is left with 2. And I'm eating up an offensive lineman that's doing absolutely nothing. And so now Russell's got to run away for his leg because there's no plan for pressure. It's 3rd and 8. Well, he gets a completion, but great, you're off the field. Another 6-man protection. Baltimore's got 7 up there at the line of scrimmage. I don't think Arthur Smith could just line up and do that, because all you know is this. Baltimore ain't all out coming. They're just running these simulators. And so what happens is they got all those one-on-ones on the outside. The tackles cannot hold up against their pressure. How many in coverage again? 7. I only got 4 out in the route. Advantage the defense. And so all these checkdowns are going to be dead. J-Mac, you mentioned it. This is a bad football team on first down. Yeah. Offensively, they are a very bad football team. So if their mindset has to be, they got to be first down, second down, first down. Because if they get into third down, look at where they rank on first down, yards per play, worst in the NFL, success rate, worst in the NFL, QBR performance, 3rd worst in the NFL. They got to be so much better on first down to even think about having a chance to win this game.
You mentioned it, J-Mac, on Pickens, right? I almost threw a pin at you because I was so excited about it.
I was getting ready to sue you.
Pickens has to prove he's a number one receiver.
How'd he do it?
Right? Because his talent is there as a number one.
Yeah.
His performance has not been a number one.
Yeah.
And that's simple as that. And it's not the drops. Like, the drops are things that you need. When you take them in and of themselves, no, but when you combine them with the emotions that he shows at the game at times, or when you look at the interception that Russell Wilson threw when he doesn't continue on a route down the sideline and make plays away from the target, those are the issues. As a number one receiver, you cannot have plays where you take yourself out of execution, where you take yourself out of the game. The threat of you being there. This is an opportunity to do that. It's the playoffs. The only way they're going to get shots down the field and complete them is through George Pickens.
Real quick, what would you do if you were Pickens, though? Because Baltimore's not going to play him one-on-one. They're not going to give him those opportunities. So, like, how do you make sure that you take him and he gets the opportunity without him feeling frustrated?
It's exactly what we talked about with A.J. Brown. Like, yeah, if you are getting double teamed and we're taking you away, it's our team, it's our responsibility as an offense to find the open guy. And until you continue on and take those guys away, you're not going to be able to get those targets.
Gotcha.
That's where the maturity level for George Pickens
Keep in mind,
step up.
Pickens just caught 10 of his targets the last 2 games.
Yeah.
That's not helping the
Hasn't been good
offense.
enough.
First, Josh Allen facing a tough Broncos defense. Here's what he said today on his approach to this week.
Continue with the preparation that we've had all year. I think it's a quote that my college coach had. It was, you dance with who brung you. We're not going to try to change anything. Don't have to do more or less. Just trying to continue and do what we're doing and make sure that we're, like I said, executing at a high level.
J-Mac, what do you expect from Allen in this matchup against the Broncos defense?
Man, exactly what he just said. When you walk into the dance with the prettiest girl, you should dance with who you came with. And that's been this Buffalo Bills offense. The turnovers have been minimized. And I think on top of that, this offensive line, they've only given up 14 sacks. And that's the matchup I want to see because the Broncos on the other side lead the NFL with 63 sacks. I can see Josh Allen this weekend turning back a little bit that clock and using his legs and getting on the perimeter and making plays when the blitz and that pressure is coming. I can't wait to see the playoff form of Josh Allen this season.
Let's go to Washington, another star quarterback facing a defense that is known for bringing pressure. That's Jaden Daniels against the Buccaneers. Here's what the Commanders rookie said about his first playoff game.
A lot of people are going to put a lot of emphasis on it because at this point it's really win or go home. And from there, it's like, okay, you got to go out there. Like the focus level might be a little bit more, but you got to stay who you are throughout the week, who you've been for these 17, 18 weeks, and go out there and just play ball.
Daniels lost to the Bucs in his first regular season game. What are the keys for the Commanders' offense here?
Well, one, be completion driven. You're going to get some perimeter completions out against the soft defense, but I would get McCourty on McCollum as much as possible. I think that's advantage Washington. If you're going to get pressured, you got to take your shots down the field and make sure that Terry McLaurin gets those one-on-one matchups because he's way too good of a player in comparison to the matchup that would be against or with McCollum for them not to do that. The second thing is, I know everyone thinks like his legs are going to bail them out, and oftentimes they did in week 1 and have. This is the playoffs, though, and you got to be greased on it all the time because the game could come down to 1 or 2 third-down conversions. So while it's easy to say use your legs against the blitz, be ready for it from Todd Bowles and this defense and make sure when they bring it, you hurt them.
All right, let's go to Houston here. How about the Texans? They limp into the playoffs, and they're the underdogs at home against the Chargers. D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud on that topic.
Everybody have an opinion about us one way or the other, but outside opinion really doesn't drive what we do here internally.
We have faith in what we can do and know that we're motivated to play. I kind of like being an underdog. I've been an underdog a lot of my life in my career, so it's actually comfortable for me. So, but yeah, I don't really think too much about it.
Hawk, what do the Texans need to do to win this one?
They need to put it all together. Look, use it as motivation, use it as bulletin board material. You can use it as a bag of magic beans for all I care. But the reality is the outside noise comes as a result of what you've put on tape in the first 17 games of the regular season. But the reality is you are here, you are at home. Yes, you're underdog, but it's a 4-game season now. Time to put it all together, correct the mistakes, and try to continue on for a quest for a Lombardi.
Protect the quarterback, right? Week 13 was the last time the Texans had a receiver over 100 yards. So that offense protects C.J. Stroud.
All right, so on Monday Night Football, it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings going out to L.A. We've talked about L.A.'s past game a lot this year, and one of the things that we've wanted to really hit on, the multiple ways that they get to really simple concepts. One of the things that they love to do is get to what we would call a sail concept. Now, a sail concept takes a receiver that's usually on the outside of the formation, and they push vertical with either a go or a corner or post route, and then they'll take some type of inside receiver and they'll weave them on a corner or what we call a sail route about 18 to 22 yards, and then somebody's going to be coming to the flat route, and there's that 3-level concept of 1, 2 to 3 for the quarterback.
And the way they set it up here, Dan, is beautiful because you can pause it right here. The fact that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys all on one side. The Bills are playing zone coverage. So right away, you're looking at that, and their nickel, Taron Johnson, is up top away from the passing strength.
Why is he up top, though? Is that a misalignment or just how they were going about it?
I would imagine it was. You saw that the Rams came to the ball quick, and they snapped it, and this was probably an assumption that maybe he thought the ball was on the hash and he was going to the field. So I got to imagine you want your nickel down here against the speed of the coverage. Because right now, look, they're out-leveraged. Look at all of these bodies over here.
So huge for Minnesota to be prepared for it, to get their numbers in the right place.
Push over.
Now, the great thing that the Rams do is off the line of scrimmage, it's always about their route distribution. For me as an offense, I look at these 3 guys pushing vertical, and as a defense, they're kind of all in the same playing field. They're all pushing vertical, and they're with almost like a depth of a bunch where the bunch came from the line of scrimmage, and they're still in that bunch concept 5 yards downfield.
That's the really cool thing about running it in a 4x1 and from the formation they did, because to your point, it's really hard to decipher who takes who and the responsibilities. So if you look at the pressure they're putting on Hamlin here, right now, both of these guys look like they're running deep overs, which is the concept of the sail right, but putting Puka on the same side makes it really hard for these DBs to diagnose, well, who is the guy that is my responsibility?
And as Cooper Kupp goes out for this kind of sail route and Puka goes to the crosser, the thing that we're doing as an offense is they want to constantly push something vertical, so when he goes vertical, we're lifting that safety, right? And as this back comes to the flat, then what we're doing is we're taking that defender down here, and now Matthew, he kind of really puts that backer almost in a bind, because usually in cover 2, which is that deep half-field safety and flat defender, the sail concept's not great. But the way that they run it, especially with that shrunk-down bunch, that linebacker is really the problem, because Matthew really does a great job of floating that ball over his head in between that safety and corner. One of the things that you want to do as an offense against Minnesota is you so often want to attack kind of this part of the field where this almost vacated hash in-breaking route, and usually it's like a deep in happening. I like the fact that the Rams have the ability to kind of get to that same spot with Cooper Kupp.
And you talked about the distribution of these routes, and typically against cover 2, it's not good. But as you continue to run this, you talked about the stress for this guy, Ebenezer. But there's also stress out here for Christian Benford as the corner, because the way these routes are and how deep they are, how spaced out they are, because the Vikings are going to run the same exact coverage. You can see Harrison Smith back there. You can see Stephon Gilmore there. And now for him, if I relate to this route, Cooper Kupp, so much, well, now I'm giving Kyron Williams 15 yards to be able to have space and make a move. And once I bite down on that flat route, then I open up Cooper Kupp.
And the beautiful thing about the sail is there's so many options. So I know on the screen it looks a certain way, but Cooper Kupp is the perfect person for it, because this is a route that can go high. It can turn literally into a straight up and down corner. If it's man-to-man, this ball is thrown towards the sideline. Because he comes out of it and he fills the zone, you feel the pace of him slow down because he realizes this is going to be a hole shot.
That's the great thing. Like, you can see Cooper get to the top, and as he's getting to the top, he's peeking at that corner to see, am I going to run hard out to that sideline, or am I going to throttle it down?
So you're always taught in the sail route, you're going to straighten it up. It's going to be an angle towards the deep over. And the decision part of the route is after the first cut, when I start going here, I'm starting to make that decision. All right, are they overplaying me to the over route where I'm coming out of it sharp? Are they underneath me where they're trying to undercut and I'm taking it high to a corner? Or, to you guys' point, in a cover 2, if everybody vacates the area, I got to know there's defenders here in the flat, and I'm going to turn for the ball, and it might be dotted on me right here.
See, that's kind of like the point is, when you're playing Minnesota, I kind of said, like, oftentimes you want to get these big in-breakers to throw that ball almost between that numbers and the hash, and the Rams are going to get to it different ways where they'll bring it from the inside and still throw that same kind of vacated
space ball. And the last thing
I'll
say is right now they have a defender up there just covering grass. When you get that 4-by and they're running that sail, you have to push that zone coverage. And everyone has to be yelling and communicating and being able to get over there to cover these routes.
Pause it real quick before that right there. The reason why this guy is open on the deep post in the sail route is open in the hole, and the flat route is open, is because, to your point, you have guys guarding green grass.
That's tough to stop, man. I think that's going to be a huge way that those routes distribute against Minnesota's defense. And it's also there's
Mike McCarthy right now.
Well, it doesn't sound like he's any closer to a deal with the Dallas Cowboys currently, Kevin, but we've seen the Dallas Cowboys always wait till the last minute on these types of deals. Go back to the start of the regular season. Dak Prescott signs on the day that the regular season kicks off. CeeDee Lamb kicks off late in the summer. Usually, these situations seems to linger until there's some sort of artificial deadline. And with Mike McCarthy being able to interview next week after January 14th, I would think that sometime here in the coming days, the Dallas Cowboys would step forward to see whether or not there is a solution for both sides to figure out whether Mike McCarthy can stay in Denver. But it is interesting that you would turn down the Chicago Bears. If you had no interest in bringing back Mike McCarthy, why would you turn that request down? If you essentially were moving on from him and knew you were moving on, that would not be very considerate to deny him the chance to talk to a team now that he could talk to next week. But the Dallas Cowboys, again, have not gotten a deal done with Mike McCarthy yet, and we'll see if there's a way the two sides can figure that out in the days to come before he's allowed to talk to other teams next week.
And that deadline would be January 14th. Schefter, thank you so much. Now, McCarthy's tenure with the Cowboys has featured success against bad teams and struggles against good ones. Facing teams that finished the season 500 or better during his tenure, they're 19-27.
Wow.
Dallas 31-11 against teams under 500. They've averaged 6 more points per game. McCarthy's only playoff win with Dallas came against the 8-9 Bucs in the 2022 Wild Card round. He's 0-3 in the playoffs against teams with a winning record. Well, the numbers don't lie, Hawk. When you look at this, though, that's one storyline.
I would not have expected that.
Exactly. And that is one storyline. It's also how the Cowboys handle things, especially with quarterbacks and star players. How do you think they're handling this with the head coach?
Horribly. I think it's bad. I would hope that this means that they are re-signing McCarthy at this point. I don't see a reason to Schefter's point of withholding an opportunity from a coach that you're moving on from. So I hope with everything in my being that this means they're trying to work towards getting him a new contract.
Would you, after seeing that graphic, would you, what's the justification to do it then? Because what you have is a coach that beats up with a good roster, at least it has been in the past years, on lesser teams.
It's January 8th. Yeah. That is not a new graphic. That is not new statistics.
Yeah.
And again, with everything you said, if you made the decision to move on, I don't think anybody would fault the Dallas Cowboys for that. You can definitely justify
just the timing.
It's January 8th.
Yeah.
We should have understood and known this by this point already. And if you are going to move on with them, you actually undermine the people in position. The conversations around Dak of whether he can lead, whether he can, should we get behind him, should we not? Well, if the organization doesn't do it, it fuels those things. And you have a coach who's trying to take hold of a locker room by waiting to the last minute. The message you send is, I'm looking for anything else. Anybody else to lead this team, and that's not what you want in the leader of your organization.
Do they want him more now that somebody else wants him? Like the fact that Chicago,
he looks more appealing.
He looks a little bit more appealing. You know, you let her go, and everybody else is looking in the room. You're like, dang, well, maybe I should have. That's what it kind of feels like. Because Jerry Sunday said, hey, we want our guys to talk. We want people that want to be here. So go out there and talk. He said the same thing with Ezekiel Elliott. He ends up signing elsewhere with the Chargers. But then McCarthy gets that opportunity and he denies it. So I got to imagine this is a reunion. My question is, all right, if you do bring McCarthy back, what's going to be different? Like, how do you change this going forward if you're the Dallas Cowboys? Because you haven't won a playoff game other than the Buccaneers, and the offense hasn't looked as good.
See, that's my point. So if he comes back, do you fear this offensive scheme as a defensive guy? When you're watching tape week after week and you're trying to get prepared for it, is it a defense? Is it a scheme that
double CD and we feel good?
So number one, is he going to stay the play caller, or is he going to bring some type of different offensive philosophy in?
Does he have to? Would you change it?
I absolutely believe you have to.
Do you think it's scheme, or do you think it was personnel? Because the year ago, this was a really good offense when he was calling plays.
Yeah, I would say that the year ago when it was a really good offense, Dak played at an incredibly high level, and it had a little bit to do with that graphic. You know, they took advantage of some poor teams and defenses that they played against. That was actually 2 years in a row.
Okay.
So I believe this scheme in 2024 and beyond is way too execution-centric and not advantageous to your players. I think the second thing is you got to get somebody opposite CeeDee Lamb. Like, if you think about it, Philly, they got 2 guys.
Yep.
The Rams, they got 2 guys. The Vikings, they got 2 guys. The Bucs, They got two guys. Like, everyone's got two guys. But
especially if
Dallas,
you're relying on execution.
Exactly. And so I think if you got to take a long, hard look at the scheme. You got to add somebody outside of CeeDee Lamb. Are they going to keep Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator? If so, can they keep Micah Parsons? And they got to retool the interior of their defense. So it's not like Mike McCarthy comes back and all of a sudden everything is solved and we're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's what needs to change. They need to give him the opportunity or the organization to say, hey, let's supply the team with what it needs so we can get a fair look at what we have.
But to your point where you said, all right, you're waiting to the last minute. If you're Mike McCarthy, is this the ideal situation to be in? Like, you come back as the coach, but just the way it all has transpired, they could have signed him to an extension last year. Throughout the course of this season, they could have said, you know what, this has been a tough season. Dak gets hurt, but McCarthy is still our guy.
I was more intrigued with him in Chicago than I would be in Dallas.
Yeah,
Candidly, because I know he's developed quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that was
the
a
same
big
way.
thing for me with Caleb Williams is it's easy to just say an X's and O's guy. Mike McCarthy has developed quarterbacks, and I had value in that.
And that simplicity of that offense actually helps Caleb because you have to get him within the confines
And they got the
of the
people to do it.
Even when Hurts has been healthy, when you watch this Eagles offense, especially in the first quarter, they have been very slow and they have struggled. Any concerns about the layoff here and him being rusty with the offense?
There's definitely concerns. I think that you have to give Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt of his character, the work ethic that he has, and I'm sure he's been as sharp as he can with the things that he can control. I think the interesting thing is, more often than not, if you have a quarterback in this situation that hasn't played in a long time, specifically an athletic, mobile guy, a lot of times coaches want to get them into the game. They want to get them, on the move or maybe taking a hit or something, a designed quarterback run just to get them back into it. It'll be interesting to see if Philly does this with Kellen Moore. Like, does he feel okay doing something like that with a guy that's just coming off of the concussion protocol?
Yeah.
When you look at this Packers defense, J-Mac, what are you most looking forward to seeing in this matchup?
How they defend A.J. Brown. I think you obviously have the addition of Saquon Barkley this year, and you, as a defensive coordinator, you always struggle with, do I commit more to stopping the run, or do I put somebody over top of A.J. Brown and not allow him to beat me? So I'm looking at these Green Bay Packers of the way they defend, the cover twos, the cover fours, of keeping that two safety shell look, and they do it from multiple ways. And this right here, you're going to see it looks like it's single high coverage, but then on the snap of the ball, both the corners are going to get out and play cover two with the droppers underneath. Tua Caesar tries to check it down, and now everybody's breaking. This is one of my favorite ones. You're looking at these guys deep, and at the snap of the ball, Xavier McKinney gets out to the bottom of your screen, and now you have Keyshawn Nixon. He's able to jump in front of this route and steal an interception that's built all by disguise and keeping somebody over the top of A.J. Brown. Now, here it is. The Vikings come out with 21 personnel. They have a fullback. Imagine the Philadelphia Eagles with 2 tight ends in the game. Now they're deciding to put 8 in the box. You stack it to stop a guy like Saquon Barkley. But when you do that, you open up shot opportunities on the outside. You're going to see for the corners right now, Nixon and Valentine, it's one-on-one. And obviously McKinney is shading to the bottom to help with Jefferson. That'll be A.J. Brown. Now, Darnold hangs this ball in the air, but if you're Philly and you're looking at that for Jalen Hurts, maybe a little rusty, maybe not, you can throw a goal.
What would you do, though, if defensively? Like, because my mind is, if I was Green Bay, I'd be like, I dare you to throw the ball to start the game.
You have to.
I'd check you to see how good. I wouldn't let Saquon get going.
You have to. He's rushed for 2,000 yards. We always talked about as a defense, if a team can run the ball on you, well, then they can do whatever they want. So now when they line up for your coordinator, am I blitzing, am I playing coverage? I don't know, because their offensive coordinator has everything at his disposal. So I think you have to start off trying to stop Saquon Barkley and stacking that box.
At least have that 8th guy down there and then
lingering.
spin to one of those, right?
Exactly. You're trying to, as much as possible, that safety, whether it's Xavier McKinney or Williams comes back, you're playing a chess game against Jalen Hurts. Of when are you coming down in the box? When are you flying out of there? You're trying to trick him as much as possible.
And so much of that also will depend on, like, how, to your point, how are they going to run Jalen and how much are they preparing on the edges and with the Saquon in the run game. And to your point about A.J. Brown, because he's going to be such a focal point in this matchup, his play away from the ball will be that much more important. I do think A.J. Brown is going to have a big game. He's a lineup and running guy. But right here, you'll see in the first matchup early in the season where McKinney's there in the 2-high safety shell, like you said, you have Devontae Smith down the middle. And because A.J. Brown doesn't continue his route down the sideline, it allows McKinney to come all the way from there to the middle of the field for that interception. That is on A.J. Brown. Now you'll see a positive version of it where they have the pre-snap motion. Now this whole thing is predicated on A.J.
Clearing it out.
Clearing out the corner. McKinney also has to take key to his attention, and it allows Barkley up the sideline. So whenever you have somebody like AJ, again, a lineup, a run-it guy, you're going to get that extra attention as you should. That becomes an advantage as long as he's dialed in to know he can affect the game even away from the football.
You know what else I think does help Philly a little bit is their pass game isn't really predicated on the timing of a pass game.
True.
You know, like the only pass game concept they really throw on time is a stop route to the outside.
No.
So the rust part of it may not be as impactful as it would for other pass games that are so bang, 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 timing and rhythm centric.
Backstory too, Dallas Goedert back on the field, and that plays a big role. We saw him play a role at the end of the season, that final game.
They got him
getting
early
some
involved,
balls, right, from Tanner McKee. You fully aware of that game, of course, calling that game. Oh.